originally in Spanish, 2020. Conversation with Yazhi Swaruu. People only like what gives them empty New Age hopes. That everything will be alright because Saint Germain will come to save them all. And they will continue to ignore that Saint Germain is a vampire.
Oh, do you have more data? They link it to Dracula. Dracula was someone very cultured.
I don't know that in great detail, but I know that Vlad the Impaler, who plagued medieval Romania and was worse than horrible, was a friend of European royalty, being that himself, and that he was called Germain, and that he was in contact with the Vatican, and that, but I don't know what levers, they beatified him and then sanctified him. I don't know what miracles they attribute to him. But he was a blood drinker, vampire, Nosferatu. And this opens up another untapped topic here, vampires. And yes, unfortunately, they are real. But they are not those pretty ones that glow in the sunlight, nor are they cute. They are hideous and degenerate. There are over 100 kinds of vampires.
What do you mean they're real? How are they classified?
More like where they are, but they are pretty much the same. For example, a lot of vampires, most of them, are mistaken for zombies. Because that's what they are. Basically corpses animated by a lower astral entity. And in order to not decompose so quickly and have to go get another corpse, they will drink blood that revitalizes them. Or they simply move into the body of the victim that displaces their soul with theirs and start that all over again. Another kind are black-eyed, like black-eyed children. Those are vampires. Don't let them in the house or anywhere. Just stay away from them. The rest of the classifications will come as variants depending on the location of the vampires, but they are virtually everywhere, with a large nest in Romania. Yes, as the legend goes. They say that Bram Stoker invented vampires with his novel Dracula, Dragon. This is not true. He turned the story of Vlad the Impaler, Saint Germain, into a novel with romantic overtones, but based on strong and uncomfortable truths. I feel he also had an agenda to help hide vampires behind a curtain of fiction, as they always do. But what Bram Stoker did invent is the concept of the handsome society vampire who seduces maidens. In everything I've seen, not once has there been a handsome vampire. They are all hideous, putrid, or just plain scary.
Have you seen real vampires? Do they live in groups?
I haven't seen them, or if I have seen them, I don't associate them with vampires. Yes, they live both in groups and alone.
They're like zombies?
That is one of the most reliable descriptions. And this is not seen on Earth. I don't see or don't know of people connecting zombies with vampires. But I see them as basically the same thing. The traditional zombie concept refers rather to a Nosferatu or undead.
You don't see zombies in the streets.
No, but they can attack isolated villages. In the streets, they can pass as black-eyed children. But I feel that is another variant. Recently, there was a vampire attack reported in Africa, very seriously, if I remember correctly, in Tanzania.
And black eyes are always children?
No, they are usually children, but adults of all ages are reported. But children is more common. I think this is to soften the victims and force them to cooperate or consent more easily.
And how do they act with their victims? What do they do to them?
Basically, they drink their blood, which is what carries the life force according to them. Partly true. It keeps them alive, as does the adrenochrome. That's basically it. Or they consume the victim's life force. It's like passing the gravity signal from the person to them.
But the blood type doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter.
And how can you neutralize them? Like both black eyes and vampires. With wooden stakes from a specific tree or silver? Do you have to cut their heads off?
Not being afraid of them, confronting them and telling them that you do not consent. Defending yourself against them with weapons. The stake should go through the ribcage, preferably upside down, through the heart. This is to keep them from getting up, not to kill them. The head should be cut off and away from the body. Valid also for zombies, according to folklore. Silver bullets give allergic reactions to certain kinds of entities, but as far as I know, it only slows them down a bit.
Do they have blood in their bodies?
Putrefied, yes.
Are they intelligent?
That depends on the entity, but in general they are not, in the case of zombie vampires. In the case of black eyes, beware. Yes, they are usually extremely intelligent. They take advantage of your terror of the moment. Terror nourishes them, because that is what they are made of. The victim has a fixed idea of what it is that haunts them, because the same entity imposes it on them. Terror focuses the victim's attention to the maximum, and so it manifests them more, because in the end, they are egregores or tulpas. So, being given fear and attention is what nurtures them. That is deluge.
Yes, so not to be afraid of them. Don't get scared, and if there is no escape, face them.
That's right. If you are not afraid of them, they can't feed on you, and they go away because you are simply no good to them.
Are they cowards?
I don't know if you can call it that. They just walk away because there is nothing they can do with you. You don't nourish them. It's like a dog looking for food and opening a box that looked like it had kibble in it and finding bags of used hard drives. They are going to keep looking somewhere else.
And do they usually go out at certain times? Where do they rest? If they rest? Are they in cemeteries, caves, catacombs?
They have been seen even in the daytime. That belief that they cannot be exposed to sun is doubtful. I wouldn't say no. I just don't have data to support that. And I do have reported cases of daytime occurrences. Yes, they are in places traditionally related to low entities, catacombs, caves, cemeteries, and so on. Also in abandoned houses and buildings. Beware, this is the most common. And in castles.
For example, where do they hide in Romania?
In the Carpathian Mountains. But they are everywhere, or almost everywhere.
Oh my goodness. You said they drink the blood with the life force. The life force, what exactly would that be?
It's hard to define. I would say it is the connection to the original source.
But it's not the soul.
It is related. Hard to define. It could be something biological, referring to the physical survival force in a physical body. I have no definition that I like. They use you moving and altering your ideas, controlling you to do what is convenient for them. They are tulpas and egregors. They need the attention that created them in the first place, and that is everything depraved, terrifying, degenerate and horrible. Just because they are tulpas does not take away from the fact that they are real.
And do they sleep? Are they always looking for a new host?
It depends on the species, but the most common ones that use a decaying body, a corpse, don't sleep. They just go and do what they have to do until the corpse is no longer useful because it's rotted.
And is there any relation to bats? Or is that just something because they suck the blood?
I see that they are related to the bats only because of that, because they suck blood. I don't know if there is anything else.
And the way that they dress in capes and black, that's irrelevant, isn't it?
That's just fiction to me. All fiction has a real basis, yes. But objectively, that seems to have come as a concept from the novel Dracula and Vlad Saint-Germain. I only see as real the fact that Vlad dressed like that. Because yes, he drank blood from his victims.
He drank blood from his victims?
Yes. And then they call me negative. They call me negative because I attack their beloved symbols by telling them what they really were.
Okay, look at that star.
There is very little on the internet with a connection to Vlad. Note the third eye of blood on the forehead.
Look at this. It matches a lot of the things that you say. The same star on the Merkaba and the vampire collar on his clothing.
Yes, it does fit a little bit, yes.
It explains Dracula. His father educated him very well, and he knew about astrology and other subjects. He wasn't a fool.
It doesn't take away from how crazy and heartless he was. From Conversation with Aneeka.
Well, I know they're real. They're not based on classic novels, and they have been around forever and all over the world, to the extent that they're a big problem on Earth, but they go into a state of recession where they can't hide for decades and then come out if something awakens them, like a war, for example. I also know that in general, they do not attack the neck, but the legs of their victims, being that the femoral artery is the one that draws the most blood when wounded, more than the jugular or carotid artery, which would be the second place. They attack the legs. I know they go by various names depending on the region of the world, and are virtually everywhere. A vampire in general is a dead and decaying human body, no longer with its original connection to source, that is reanimated by an astral tulpa entity of a regressive nature. As it uses the body, it continues to deteriorate, and it is often in an advanced state of cadaveric decomposition.
So they would be like zombies?
It is linked or directly related to classic zombies, that's right. The blood is both to help animate the rotting body, but mostly it's for absorbing the life energy of the person they're sucking. Vital energy, full of adrenaline and fear, related to adrenochrome, which is the manifesting base of that kind of regressive entities of tulpa or egregor nature. The discipline that studies vampires is eupyrology, and it is very old and has not disappeared. It remains stable, but under the water of the table, because eupyrologists, do not go around the streets saying that their specialty is hunting vampires. Holy water is useless against vampires, but garlic causes them a strong allergic reaction. Mirrors serve as weapons because the mirror does not reflect the vampire, but what it does reflect is the corpse it is animating. It is said that the being animating the corpse goes into shock when it sees how horrible it is inside that rotting body. Vampires are not eternal. They only last as long as a parasited body lasts, usually dead and putrefied, and then they must jump to another or be destroyed. The stakes should be made of cedar or oak and should be about 5 centimeters in diameter, enough to pass between the vampire's ribs and break them. The stakes do not kill the vampire, but it is used to nail it to the ground so that it cannot get up. If you're being chased by a vampire, you can throw seeds or marbles that you have in a bag, especially if they're bright or brightly colored, because the vampire has a strong tendency to be obsessive-compulsive and will stop to count the seeds or marbles, giving you time to escape. This borderline absurdity is something that is constantly encountered in euparology and taken as a fact.